Today on the First Time Storytelling broadcast, my guest is Sara Gabriella. Sara is a girl who loved stories and always knew she would grow up to be a woman who created them. She's a best-selling author and freelance writer storytelling for the media, entertainment, and brands. Sara's here to share the story of the first time she stepped into her purpose as she stepped on stage to deliver a spoken word poem that opened a 3-day summit. Welcome to the First Time Storytelling broadcast, Sara.
Hello, welcome. Happy Hump Day.
Yay.
I'm
So,
very happy to be here.
well, very happy to have you. Okay, so let's get into this. Usually I would ask the question of what got you into poetry, but today I want to start with that moment. You're at this conference, you're about to step on stage in front of a large crowd, and you mentioned before we opened first time it was going to be this big of a crowd and this kind of a crowd. What were you thinking about as far as what brought you here and what this meant for you?
Okay. Yes, the really the significance of, opening this summit with my poem is that I had been performing, at open mics, poetry readings for years, but it was always to a crowd of people that were there for poetry, So, they were relaxing, maybe having a cocktail, enjoying poetry. They kind of, were in that vibe, and that's what they were there for. This was different. So this was in 2013. And it was for the 3-day Think and Grow Rich Summit in Del Mar, California. And it was to open a conference that, to businessmen and women in suits, with laptops and notebooks and water bottles and badges around their neck, so not the normal crowd that I was used to, right? Were these people even into poetry? What did they think of poetry? Who knows, right? And they, I paid a good amount of money to see big speakers like, John Ashraf, who's like featured in the movie The Secret, and David Lynette, the co-founder of like Remax, so it's probably a surprise for them to, opening, see a poet they've never heard of step onto the stage, right? But so I was very nervous, of course, my heart was like beating and stuff, as I, stepped on there and, cracked the first few words and to start this poem.
So how much work did it take you to book this opportunity, right? And was that on your mind? Like you obviously, or this because it doesn't sound like opportunities like that would just fall on your lap. So
Right.
how much work went into booking the opportunity and then being in that moment of having to, to perform?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of cool how that happened, and more proof for me that like when you're kind of in line with your purpose, like the right people come into your lives and the right opportunities present themselves. So I ended up so to explain that, let me explain what this summit was about. So Think and Grow Rich is the best-selling book by who's considered like, the father of self-development, Napoleon Hill. And I happened to be discussing his second book, which is Outwitting the Devil, lesser known because it was so controversial. He couldn't even publish it during his lifetime. And actually it took 30 years after his death to be published, but amazing. And, the principles and the wisdom in it, is even greater, in my opinion, than was even in, Think and Grow Rich, the book that a lot more people are aware of. So I was discussing that with Tony Wroblewski, who is the co-founder of the summit. Just kind of, my impressions of the book and stuff. And I guess he was, kind of impressed with my thoughts on it. And he knew I was a poet. And he said, it was just kind of like that synergistic moment where we were just going, and it was all about, the ideas and the work and stuff. And he obviously huge fan of Napoleon Hill as well as I was. And so we just connected on that. And he was just like, look, why don't you write a poem on it, and, send it to me. So I said, okay. And I did. And after that poem, and very grateful that, he gave me the opportunity and, had me do that, because actually, to this day, it's one of the most powerful pieces that I think I've created. And I love, love, love that poem. And, I
So
probably wouldn't have recreated it otherwise. And then when he read it, he was like, you know what? He was like, would you be willing to open the conference with this poem? And my first thought was, yeah. And then after I was like, oh my God, what did I just agree to do? So that's how it happened.
So how much time was it between when he asked and when you had to do it?
Oh gosh, maybe like a month or something like that. Yeah.
So did you go in full rehearsing mode? Like what?
So I did. And it's like, at that time I was living in Las Vegas, and I drove from Las Vegas to Del Mar. And I was just like reciting it the whole drive. It's a good drive. I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, something like that, maybe more. So yeah.
She had to, well, and this is, so if you've never written something and then tried to repeat it, people might not know, but you have to even though you wrote it, you have to rememorize your own words, and you can actually forget your own words.
Absolutely. And sometimes when I, even when I perform it to this day, I'll usually have it like in front of me, because then I'll go back and forth from, reading parts to like saying parts, because you write so many things, you create so many things, not everything, stays in there. But yeah, that was, it definitely adds right to the nerves and stuff, that, when you're performing a piece versus, just writing something. Because, when you're performing the piece, it's like, 2 ways. It's like you're focused on, the words, but also you're focused on your pitch and your tone. In this, it's like, I'm in heels on stage, in front of a crowd of people. And so there's a whole different, performance aspect that you're also you're also paying attention to, and as well as like, okay, and I got to make sure to hit every single word, because it's not, it's a good sized poem. So a lot of things you're thinking of at the same time, but it's absolutely thrilling.
Yeah. And a poem is not like a speech, where in a speech you can interchange words and still get your point across, but a poem,
right,
every
exactly.
word counts and matters in a poem. So now you're about to step on that stage. Who introduces you, and like what happens? How does it all flow?
Yeah. So Tony gets out there, Tony Rubleski, and he gets out there and, kind of, welcomes the crowd and everything. And, does a little introduction. And I'm sure, there are a lot of people out there going, what's this all about? Or going, oh my God, really? A poet? Let me check my BlackBerry or whatever. let me check my email or something. I think that they probably didn't, I don't know, what maybe their impressions of, what a poem was, but this is a pretty impactful piece, and because of the content, right? It's based on a book that's all about like the wisdom of how to live a abundant, successful, purpose-driven, fulfilling life. So it's a big, we're talking about big ideas and big concepts here, life-changing type stuff. So, and that's, the content, of course, the poem is going to be, it's going to have like those big ideas too. So I think, there was a little like, here and there, but like once I really got started, it was like, and you can, it was, you can kind of hear everybody silent and like really like, oh, okay, let me tune in, let me pay attention to this. Oh my gosh, what is she saying?
So you're taking notice that as you're delivering your poem, the room is changing and they're starting to pay attention. So as you're delivering this, you're paying attention to all of that.
Yeah. And that's another, big distinction, right, between when you're actually, performing a poem versus when you're writing, doing other types of writing. And, it's a really solitary thing. And you may, after people start reading it or you may get feedback and stuff from people, but like with poetry, when you're or performing something, when you're on stage, in front of a live audience, it's like immediate feedback, so that there's that extra dynamic, and then how that feedback like impacts you. And as the room started quieting, and as I started feeling that people kind of like leaning in a little bit, then I got more courageous too, and then I just started really flowing. And and that's why I really say that I stepped into my purpose, because when I got into that flow, then all of a sudden it there were no nerves, there wasn't any nerves, there was no am I going to disappoint, the founder of this, conference that gave me this wonderful opportunity? What are these people going to think? Who know? Do they even like poetry? Do they think it's dumb? Blah, blah, blah. Like all of that kind of stuff melts away, because you know what? It's no longer about you. And that is like the most freeing thing, yeah. When
So
you just
you're
get out
finding
of your own
yourself,
head.
yeah. So you're yeah, I mean, there's nothing like being in that flow state where everything that you've worked for, everything that you've created, it all starts coming together and is appreciated, is being received, and you're feeling and you're fueling off all of that. So that's beautiful that you had that experience. And as you're having that experience, are you thinking, okay, I want this all the time? I want a lot more of this now.
So I would say this, like, and especially, once the moment, came to an end, and it's almost like, Michael Beckwith calls that flow motion, right? And so I was like in my flow motion, and when it all came to an end, and it's kind of like, back to reality, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in this room in front of all these people, and da da da. Everybody started clapping and everything. And Sharon Lecter, who wrote like the foreword for Outwitting the Devil, and she works with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And when I came off stage, she asked me, she's like, "Oh my gosh, can I give you a hug?" And I was like, and at that moment, the biggest shift for me was in my awareness that, oh my gosh, I have a unique voice. Like I have a unique perspective, that like, that's what I bring, to the world that nobody else has. And, not that it makes me better than any other, or worse, or than any other poet or any other writer, but it makes me unique. And to see that my words could have that impact, on people, again, people that weren't there for poetry, this is not their thing, just, so random. I mean, it's like taking, a room full of strangers and putting them in, and yet they could impact the way I see and feel something, and like that could resonate with them. That was like the huge thing. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is what I'm here to share with the world.
Well, and I can only
Yeah.
imagine, yeah, what an incredible realization and moment it must have been. I mean, I know when I read certain things and it moves me and impacts me, and it's like, oh, there's so much power, be it in the written or spoken word. And I'm so grateful that this person created this content, and then I'm able to be moved and touched by it. But then when you're the person who is the creator, and you're your worst critic, you're
Always.
like, you don't know how things are going to land, or sometimes you think it's really good and it goes really bad, and you never know how it's going to turn out. So when it does turn out in such a magical way, there's nothing that's more incredible and rewarding and life-changing and shifting to be able to do that, to be like, if no matter what, I need to improve my craft, my skill, and to keep being able to do that.
Yeah,
So yeah.
absolutely. It's that one of those moments when I'm like, you know what, I have a gift, and it's my responsibility to like share that, because I've been given something. And you know, and if I don't share it, then it's a waste, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are there more opportunities like that afterwards?
Yeah, well, and actually another big opportunity came from that. In one of the speakers of that conference was Brad Zollis, and he, you know, was there and heard the poem and everything, and you know, we kept in touch. We're still friends today. Hey, Brad, if you're out there listening. um, and he ended up recruiting me to be one of the authors of a very successful a book series called Journeys to Success. And then that ended up being my first, you know, time being published as a nonfiction author. And it ended up being, you know, an Amazon bestseller. So, and that came, you know, from saying, you know, yes to an opportunity that, I said yes to in the moment, and after thinking, oh God, can I get out of this? What did I do? And so yeah, I mean, it's funny. And that opportunity actually, that the Journeys to Success book, you know, didn't come, you know, till a few years later. But it's just like that, being in alignment, you know, when you're kind of doing like what you're really meant to do, you know, when you're really following your purpose, like, you know,
Yeah.
things will line up. Yeah.
Well, yes and no. They can still happen. You don't have to be in alignment with your purpose for things like that to happen. So I don't want people to think that's the only time magic is going to happen in life. Magic happens in life when you say yes, when you put yourself out of your comfort zone, when you try something new.
Absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
opportunities can happen,
Step
and
out
you
of your comfort zone.
yeah, and you might not even know that it is your alignment, but an opportunity to present itself, and it will open up a whole new path you never even considered. So you want to step into those moments. So before we move to the first time lightning round, we'd love to hear the poem if you don't mind sharing it with us.
Okay, yeah, sure, I'd love to. This poem is called There Is a Voice. And okay, here we go. As you walk in urban symphony plays, a soundtrack to your distress days, discouraged melodies with cognitive dissident stance, preconceived notions, a judgmental glance, negative thoughts hypnotize you into a trance. Why do those that know the least tend to talk the most? Those that lack confidence be the first to brag and boast, as if counting your sins somehow makes them a saint, as if calling you less somehow makes them great. But I'll tell you a secret that many don't want you to know: the way to make your freedom and your success grow. Be the master of your own thoughts, your own mind, your own soul, your own time. Controlling your own mind is the key to being self-directed, self-empowered, self-confident, and free. You see, there's a song that lives deep inside, an inspiring sonata orchestrated from on high. If you kill the noise and silence the critics, I promise you too will hear it. Singing from the source that binds us in love, singing just the way you are good enough. So kill the noise and silence the critics, connect to the higher spirit. Can you feel it? The life force is pulsing, playing a concert of power. Energy invigorates and the voice grows louder. You speak in tongues of laughter and love, endlessly growing. It's a new way of knowing, higher than our limited human mind, infinitely compassionate and kind. It tells the truth, so pay their dramas no mind. Silence the world and hear it sing the wisdom of all creation. Knowledge so vast it's beyond linguistic interpretation. If you want to know your mission, just shut up and listen. It's really that simple to channel your intuition. There's a voice. And when you're silent, you can hear it. The distractions of the world, oh, they'll tell you to fear it, but life's a game. There's a million ways to play. Follow their rules or you'll lose, is what they'll say. But kill that noise and go your own way. If you want answers, sit down and pray. Believe in yourself. Step out on faith, knowing you own the best things in life without having to pay. I own my heart and my mind, my soul and my time. There's a voice. And the more you listen, the more you'll hear it. You'll start to feel it until you're talking to God with every word you speak. It's a simple but divine technique. There's a voice. And to listen is your choice. So silence the world and kill the noise. Be yourself with grace and poise. There's a voice. And to use it is your choice. So speak your truth. Even when they think you're uncouth, walk and talk your truth. Even if they think you rude, there's a voice. And it sings the ancient song of you. And that's more than enough. It's your destiny, a celebration of everything you were created and meant to be.
Oh, wow. It's definitely a very empowering and powerful poem, and you definitely perform it. I mean, that makes such a big difference. So if you are not a fan of poetry, well, Sarah showed you how it's done, how, perhaps reading it doesn't move you, but hearing it and seeing it perform makes a world of difference, and that's a craft, that's an art to master for sure, and very well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I got to
Yay.
say, the source material was a lot of the inspiration for that, too. So, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, amazing book.
All
Amazing
right.
wisdom.
I'll
And the
have to,
cut between those covers.
yeah, I'll have to add it to my reading list. All right, then let's switch over and let's play the first time lightning round. All right, so the way this works is I'm going to ask Sarah 10 different first time options, and it's similar to the app. So if she was on the app, if it was something she's done before, since she says up, she would swipe up. If it's something she's never done, not interested, we swipe left and it goes away. And if it's something she has never done, would like to do, then we swipe right and we add it to her list. All right, you're ready to go?
Let's do this.
Okay, take a trapeze class.
Actually, I've done that before, up.
Oh, tell us, what was that like?
Yes. So I did that for a I actually had like a pilot for the show when I lived in Vegas that was all about like Vegas life and stuff. And so for one of the episodes, they have a trapeze thing in Vegas, and so I actually did that class. And the scariest part for me is the climb up those rugs to the top, because it's like so high, and I didn't think I was scared of heights until I was like climbing up that thing, and I was like, oh man. But it was so worth it, because the swing, and when you go and you grab somebody's hand, it's just so much fun. So yeah, it's worth that very scary climb.
Awesome. Yeah, it's on my 365 first challenge list to do, and I was hoping to get it done over the springtime, but well, the COVID
Yeah.
changed that. Okay, next one. Shear a sheep.
Left.
Left? Not for
I'm an
you.
animal lover, and I think that might make me sad.
Not really. Well, it's good for them though to get their wool
Yeah, they
off.
feel good after.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
because I think they shear them like right after the winter, and it's just like it
Okay.
off, and yeah. But
Okay. Then
oh,
I might try
don't
that.
quote me on that though.
Okay. Then I might try that.
Okay, buy a painting, like a commission painting.
I have done that.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yes.
What kind of painting was it?
Of my dog.
Oh,
Yeah. Of my dog. I worked at a video game company. I was writing for video games, and one of the artists there, she had worked on some Disney, animated films and stuff, and she was like really great. And so I commissioned her to do something with my dog because
Very cool. Yeah, I've seen some of those, and I need to do that. I need to do one of those for little man.
yeah.
Next one, get a spray on tan.
I have done that. Oh my gosh, I've done so many of these things.
That's good. Okay, next one, have your car washed to support a fundraiser.
I would totally do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've never done that, but we go right on that.
Yeah.
Awesome. What
Right.
about crochet?
Left.
Left?
Yeah.
Why? I'm like, left.
I think that I don't have the time to pick up, something like that I'm like not so interested in. Yeah.
Okay. Learn to tap dance or tap dance.
I was in a tap dance class as a little girl, performed in a recital in a little yellow tutu.
Did you do the good chip lollipop? That's a very
I remember there's jazz hands parts and I still have the pictures. Actually, they're really cute. I don't remember much at all about the experience, but the pictures are cute.
Oh, okay, fabulous, excellent. Do a kettlebell workout.
Oh, I love, yeah, I would totally do that. Yeah. Working out is cool. It's harder now, because I like the classes. And so obviously, with COVID, working out's kind of hard, but yeah, I totally, and actually I have a kettlebell, so it's right over there, but
yeah. I'm sure there's online classes. There's definitely a lot of fitness, and well, like everything else has moved to online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Next one, cook a meal in a crock pot.
I have an Instapot, if that counts.
That does count. Do you have a specialty?
On my Instapot, I make a lot of soups and a lot of rice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
So there's this recipe that I got from my grandma that I like. That's rice with like guandules and green olives. It's my mom's family is from Panama, so it's a Panamanian dish, and I like that one a lot.
Oh, very nice. I'm not a fan of green olives, so I will not ask you for the recipe.
They're really good in this recipe.
There are very few things that I have eaten that I don't like, and olives are like at the top of the list. And I tried.
Not your thing.
No, I didn't like mushrooms, and then I made myself eat them, and I ended up liking them. And I tried the same thing with olives, and nope, it was not happening. So I'm like, well, I gave it all I had. It's not happening. Okay, last one, play air hockey.
Oh, I've done that. Yeah.
Done that. All right.
That's
awesome.
fun.
Yeah.
I'm not good at foosball at all. I'm not a very good pool player, but I can get down with some air hockey. I'm not bad.
I am right there with you. Actually, I'm a little too obsessed with it. I will get bloody knuckles playing air hockey.
Okay, and that's obsessed.
I have a bit of a competitive streak with certain games, and air hockey is one of those. So I'm surprised I would have room in this place, air hockey table. But I live alone, so how fun is that? Like, go find a neighborhood kid. It's like, hey kid, want to come to my house and play air hockey?
Can't play the dog.
No, that does not work. All right. So, final question. How have you been making the best of the current situation that we find ourselves in with the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been a time for me to do a lot of reflection, introspection, to really like question like a lot of, the things, routines and habits that, are kind of just on autopilot. Time to do a lot of inner work, really, with meditation and, and just, connecting. And so it's actually in that way, it's been a real benefit to me. Yeah.
Very nice. Have you been doing a lot more writing?
I have. In fact, I'm launching a new brand. So I've been working on that as well. And yeah.
So I said final question, but I lied, I guess. I'm just curious, what made you leave Las Vegas?
So I was living in LA when I moved to Las Vegas, really because of family situation. And my grandparents retired out there, and then once they got older and stuff, my mom moved there too, and as well as my oldest niece. And so my mom kind of needed a little help when my grandfather was having some health challenges. He's fine now, 92, still going strong. But yeah, there was so my mom kind of had her hands full, and so I was in LA a few hours away. So I said, okay, I'll come, and thought it was going to be a temporary thing. Ended up staying 5 years. Yeah. And then but the intention was always to go back to California, and I did that eventually.
Oh, all right. Well, if you're ever through here for a visit for the family, let me know.
I'm there all the time. I will.
All right.
Absolutely. I look
Awesome.
forward to that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And it was great to hear your story and learn more about you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.